So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders, their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this morning, I'm delighted to have with us David Abel, who's independent financial advisor at Vision Independent Financial Advisors. So, David, firstly, thank you for spending some time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, your business, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Thanks, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name's David Abel. I run Vision with my wife, Alana. So we acquired the company last year officially, but we've kind of been running it for the previous few years. And we really help people understand what they want to do and kind of help them build a life plan almost,
Great.
and try and help them understand what they need to do to achieve the ideal lifestyle without
Brilliant.
making any kind of mistakes in the meantime. So giving them that peace of mind that they're on track, but also kind of saying, well, actually, we need to make a few tweaks if you want to kind of achieve or you want to be financially independent by, let's say, age 60. So we've helped hundreds of families achieve that financial freedom, and it's an incredibly fulfilling job. And yeah, I can see myself doing it for the next kind of 3 decades, as with my wife as well.
Brilliant.
So yeah, that's a snapshot of how we help people.
Wonderful, and I think it's so important to have that plan of what we want to achieve. It's so easy just to get on, as I call, get on the hamster wheel or of the rat race, and wake up 30 years later, wonder where it's all gone, and not really know what's going on. So it's okay, and interesting enough, we do something very similar with the business owners we work with. Is we don't design the we design the business around the personal goals of its owners rather than
Yeah.
the other way around. It's like it's a bit crazy to have business goals if they don't directly relate to the lifestyles the owners choose to have. It's
Yeah, definitely. And I did some coaching a few years ago as well in terms of business coaching, and that was
brilliant.
one thing, personal vision. And if
Yep.
you've got that kind of clear, then it kind of helps decision making down the road. So it's like, well, should I buy another business and expand? Well, that means I'm going to have less time with my family, which is completely against my personal vision. So it's really important, and so few people have it.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. No, completely agree. So, obviously, you're very clear on what you do and how you help people. What would you say makes a great client for you? It's sort of A grade, the sort of people you serve best. Would you say?
Kind of the guy that you've just mentioned there, that business owner that's really busy, successful, went into business because he was really good at something, but it's kind of just gone away from him. Probably a lot of overlap with yourself, ideal client. They just need someone to say, what are we doing this for? And what can we do to optimize your position, whether
Yeah,
that's
brilliant.
taxation, growing your wealth, making sure that we've got stuff covered, we're transferring any risks if they get ill or one of their key people get ill or something like
Yes.
that. And just I think the main thing for me is people get to make informed decisions, and they understand that I could pay £500 a month for this insurance policy, and I've actively made the decision not to do it instead of not knowing about it and not
Yes.
being told and not doing that. So I think that's a really kind of important driving factor. And once people know, generally, then they'll make a good decision off the
Yeah.
back of it. But yeah, that's a kind of ideal client, and we've actually just set up a trading style, which is soon to be a subsidiary business called Vision Dental Wealth, which is
Right.
specifically aimed at dentists.
Yep.
And the origin of that was we work with a company called Hive, who are an accountancy firm and tax advisors, as
Yes.
well as business advisors in that space, that dental
Yep.
space.
Yep.
And they introduced a few clients to us, and they had advisors, but they weren't doing that whole picture. They weren't looking at the
Yep.
whole planning process. It was very much, you've got you need an ISA, you need a pension, and that was it. Instead of saying, what we're doing this for, building a plan. And really, I think we had about six referrals in a row, and they all kind of came on board. And it was clear to us that there was a real gap of advice there, and it was
Yep.
somewhere that we could really focus on. We had a lot of experience with dealing with a lot of business owners, which dental practice is a business
Yes.
essentially. Um, so that it kind of just seemed like a natural fit, and that side of the business is just growing at a fantastic rate.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Um, it's an interesting thing, I worked with one or two dental practices historically a long time ago, to be fair, and they're very specialist in what they do and how they do it. Not obviously not just what they do in terms of dentistry, but the model for that business is quite relevant to the people within it in many ways. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because I do work with I have worked with again financial advisors because we help people make money, but we don't advise them what to do with it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
We do a little bit around sort of things like property investment and business investment. But in terms of
Yeah.
the amount of knowledge I know it takes you to have learned and to qualify to learn to advise people is quite a huge amount of specialist knowledge. So it's really important that people that we work with do engage with the best financial advice they can get.
Yeah, I think it's important, and not just financial advisors, but knowing that being an architect for that plan and pulling the right people in, the right
Yeah,
solicitors, the right tax
yeah,
advisors, and whether it's business advisors or business coaches, making sure they've got the right people to help them out, because we all need help. We don't specialize in everything, and I think that's
yeah,
one thing I've noticed through business is really value your own time and kind of
yeah.
pass the ball to people that really know what they're doing in really important spaces.
Absolutely, absolutely brilliant. So, if we look back for a little while, David, if you could tell us a little bit more about your background, how you got into business, and why this particular one for you.
Yeah, sure. So I, like probably a lot of people, left university not having a clue what to do. I mean,
Yep.
when I went to university, I did business and management because again, I had no idea what I wanted to do, and went back to working on a family farm in Staffordshire. So my family, five generations farm, arable farm in Staffordshire. So I
Oh,
kind of
well.
naturally did that, working with my dad for about 3.5 years, which was taught me a lot about working hard
Yep.
and some 24-hour days in there,
Yes.
a lot of graft, and it just got to the point where we were quite similar characters, and it just really wasn't working, and it was a really tough decision to say, well, I just don't think it's right. It's not right for you. It's not right for me,
Yep.
and that kind of we kind of separated after that from there, and we just kind of said, well, this is what you're great at. I'll kind of find something else. So again, back to the drawing board and thinking, well, what can I do? And I thought a sales job, transferable skills, put myself in an uncomfortable position, which I think everybody should do for when they leave
Brilliant.
school, by the way, just for a year.
Yep.
Uh, and then I made a transition to commercial insurance. So there's a kind of farming link because it's a National
Yes.
Farmers Union agency down
Yep.
there, and the senior partner there kind of said, "Do you want to come along? There's a partnership position, and we think you'd be great for it." And I think that was massive, massive for me because it used my experience in farming and sales, and it was just great running the business and having that responsibility. And I think I was about when I was about 27, and that kind of really gave me the push I needed to really
Yep.
start focusing and knuckling down. So I really, really enjoyed my time there. We grew the business well. There was another partner came on board that was, really good on the business strategy side, and I learned a lot from him as well. And then my father-in-law kind of said, "Would you like to come and take over this business at some point, Vision?" And I said no for quite a while because I just thought,
Perfect.
it's not a good fit. We weren't even married then, myself and Alana, so it was kind of a big push. But just because he was such a good he was such a good kind of leader and communicator. I thought if I can spend 5 years with this guy, it's worth the punt. And if it doesn't work, I can just go and get a different job. So
Brilliant.
that's kind of how I transitioned to Vision in 2019.
Yep.
And since then, we've been growing the business, and we've officially bought it from Kevin last
Brilliant.
April.
Brilliant. And since then, what are the biggest challenges you've had to overcome?
The biggest challenge, I think, since then. So the biggest, I think, challenge for me in that part was leaving the farm because obviously it was I
Yes.
was the only son, so the expectation there, and it was very difficult to do.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah.
So that was the biggest issue there. But I think it's been since I've joined the firm, it's kind of been, I wouldn't say plain sailing, but everything's kind of fallen into place, and
Brilliant.
I think it's really where I should be. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm in exactly the spot I need to be. And every time I have a client, one of those first client meetings where, you have that big impact on someone and you leave and you're just thinking, this is such a pleasure to, I've had a chat with a really interesting business owner that's, taught me a lot, had a cup of
Yep.
tea with them, and, it's my job. So I'm just very, very grateful for that.
Brilliant. It's great when you can find that, I think a lot of people talk about being in flow. You find that your purpose and the thing that you're just really good at and you really like.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's great, and again, it's great for motivation, and it keeps reminding us why we're doing what we're doing. And I think, fortunately for me, I've fallen into it because that was
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
the understanding when I actually joined the firm in 2019. It's more just the work we've done, self development, and changing our system slightly to really emphasise that.
And you obviously mentioned 2019. How did COVID affect how you operated and the business in general?
Yeah, it's interesting because it actually worked in our favor because we all worked remotely anyway. All the advisors and
Right.
all the staff uh,
Yes.
worked remotely. So we would historically go and see clients. So now is the video call was seen as efficient, not lazy, which just
Yes.
means our capacity increased,
Yeah.
and you could just jump on a video call, and if someone's concerned about market volatility or something, you can jump on it and you can reassure them. So it was
Brilliant.
actually really, really positive for us, and
Yes.
we we are still remote. There are obviously challenges with that, but we think for quality of life for us and our employees, I think working remotely, it works for us.
Yep.
Um, and I think that going forward, it's just increased our capacity now. And you might know the same thing. You can have a call with someone in London. We've got a lot of clients, in London and down south. And you can have an initial call. You can have a few meetings and really understand if it's a good fit. And then you can
Yeah.
go and see them once you've done that. And I think that's the main thing that's changed. Whereas historically, you would have just,
Yeah.
regardless of, you might have qualified the person, thought you might be able to work together on a quick phone call, but then if you go down and see them and realize it's not really a good fit, it's just really efficient, and it helps us with our time and capacity.
Couldn't agree more. It's I think it's a bit weird. It's funny looking back over how things have changed and going, why did I do that? Why didn't I find a different way? I mean, well before pre-COVID, my first business, and way before even things like video conferencing. I remember driving one of our clients. We worked in power generation. One of our clients was Dungeness Power Station down on the Kent coast, and
Yeah,
driving down there and back in a day for about a half an hour meeting. And even now I can't. I mean, I did it all the time, but you just go,
yeah,
surely we could have sorted out by phone. I mean, surely it, or there were some technology around at the time, but you just sort of did because that was like it was the expectation of
yeah.
meeting face to face, and if anything good's come out of COVID is that we don't need to meet face to face anymore, other than if we want to and enjoy it. Things like prequels, things like just catch ups, etc., all could be done so much easily remotely.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I've got some clients that I haven't met for a while. Like they've
Yes,
just said, okay, that makes sense. Let's come on board. They've checked the FCA register and they've done their due diligence. But thinking it's people with decent amount of money that they're kind of just saying, yeah, that works for me. Go ahead, go ahead and get it
yes,
sorted. And you think, oh well, we should probably see each other at some point. And I always do make a point to go and see them, even if they
yeah,
have come on board, just because I think if you're partnering with someone, our clients are with us for 30 years plus sometimes. So I think it's really important that you've got that. You go and see someone, meet them in person at the outset.
wonderful. And what would you say the biggest things you've learned about running and growing a business?
Good question. I think it's easy to be hard on yourself sometimes when you're kind of looking and you want to grow and you want to do things right and you want to do things perfectly, and you're constantly thinking, well, should we do things better? And then what I found is if you zoom out 3, 12, 24 months and you think, actually, we've made incredible progress here. We're on the right trajectory. Things are going well. I think
Yes,
that's one thing I've kind of learned to do, and kind of be grateful for that,
yeah,
and
brilliant.
try not to get too caught up in the moment, because it's really easy to do when you want to grow the business, you want to make the business more efficient, you want to make the client experience better, and you're trying to do 100 things at once. But it's there's a book by Gino Whitman called Traction, which is about rocks. So those 3 month goals.
Yeah,
If you can be doing that, you are making really good progress, because
yeah.
they're big tasks. So I think that for me is kind of the biggest learning point. Don't be too hard on yourself in the moment. Just look back at how far you've come over the years, and
Brilliant.
look at it that way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's in fact it's interesting. One of the things we do a lot, I find entrepreneurial people don't celebrate very well. They're because they're always looking at what they haven't achieved rather than what they have.
Yeah,
So we actively get people to celebrate. At the very least, we get our clients together on a quarterly basis, and part of that is that celebration of what have I actually achieved.
yeah,
It's brilliant just to see people at the table sharing that they've achieved. Yeah, I only brought on 10 people this month, sort of thing, or this quarter, or whatever, and other people go, that's amazing, it's incredible. Just that energy of celebration, because for me, celebration builds resilience. because
Yeah.
that the morning that you wake up and you go, why the hell am I getting out of bed? You've got
Yeah.
to have an answer. Without an answer, it becomes more and more difficult. We can only rely on discipline, which different people have different quantities of that. So the celebration of understanding why we're doing it because of the successes we've had, I think is really key.
Yeah, you've got to. I mean, you've got to. I mean, I've never had a problem with celebration because
Good man. Me neither.
I've got kind of three. I've got four quarterly events I go to with like friends from various different groups, and that's kind of my blowout a year. So they're
Brilliant.
kind of strategically placed once every 3 months. But I think you're absolutely important to do
Nice.
it because what you're doing it for. And I think it's good sense check. Talking about what you're doing with your friends, and it kind of helps realign you and recalibrate kind of what you're doing. I think that's what I found most valuable. I actually had one of those the weekend just gone in York
Brilliant.
with a dear friend. So yeah, I think it's important.
Couldn't agree more. Funnily enough, I didn't really position it as that personally, but I've got to a couple of friendship groups, but we've just four of us just come back from Galway races. Funnily enough, we went over to Galway for a long weekend and
Oh, nice.
went to the races. Fantastic place. Like I've never been before. I have been. Sorry, that's not true, but I certainly hadn't been for a long weekend in that way, and it was just fabulous. Amazing place. Great race meet. Um,
Come
strongly
back with a
recommend it.
pocket full of cash.
Funnily enough, we did. That was the
Did
nuts
you?
thing. Yeah, and it wasn't of the four of us. Certainly, two weren't particularly horse oriented. I know a little bit, and my friend does a lot. He's very successful gambler.
Yeah.
But it was one of the other guys, and he was. It just so happened he was a Man City fan, and one of the horses was called Blue Moon Boy. So he just went, oh, I'll have that one, and it came in at 33 to 1. So
Oh wow. Well, that's all right, isn't it?
that's,
Drinks on him.
and I think he had another one on a similar vein, and then we all started following him. We said, "Well, don't matter what the form says. We'll just bet on what he's betting on because he's lucky at the moment." So yes, we did.
Yeah.
So no, brilliant celebration, absolutely key for me, and great that you're doing that. And you mentioned it earlier, but I'm keen to know as a business coaching organisation who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, or life in general. Who's had the biggest impact on you?
Yeah, well, there's kind of two that stand out. One was my rugby coach at school. Incredibly, you really wanted to play with him. He's actually headmaster of the school now.
Brilliant.
Great relationship with him, and it was a really big part of my kind of childhood. That rugby and
Yep.
just I think it's the patience. Just how and when you learn about communication, you can kind of see back how they're really good at it.
Yep.
Basically just asking a few good questions and kind of getting you to do all the work really.
Yes.
So I think the rugby coach for me was incredible. It's a chap called Dan Harrison at Sedbergh. He's now the headmaster.
Okay.
And then the other would be my father-in-law Kevin. I think he's just got incredible patience, incredible patience, really good communication skills. Like when I went into a first meeting with him, he's just so good naturally at making people feel at ease and
Yeah.
comfortable and keeping things concise. And he's helped me a lot through the whole, learning the advice stuff, the technical stuff,
Yeah.
right through to the actual, the communication skills, how to frame things so people understand them and change people's perspective.
Yeah.
And I think for me that's had a massive impact. I think they're the two key figures, I'd say.
Brilliant. And whether it's from them or any other sources, what do you have any favourite quotes or sayings about business or success that you catch yourself using on a regular basis?
Well, not specifically a quote, but I think the thing that I think that I always try and remember is understanding the importance of your own time and valuing it properly.
Yep.
And I think as a business owner, especially when you first start out, you try and do everything yourself and try and cut corners. And you think, well, I can do this video editing myself. It's only going to take 4 hours. And I think I've got a little girl will be two this month, and a boy will be 5 in November. And I think since they've come along, that's kind of really pushed on how much I value my time, because I only get a certain amount of time with them. I'm conscious that they're only going to be young for a small amount of time, so I need to do that. So now I'm quite quick to sub things out, like editing, for example. I'll just go like, well, that's not my wheelhouse. I'll move that away. So I think for me, valuing my own time is important. And I think a lot of people, even clients, don't do it. They don't value their time properly. But I think for me, that's one thing that I always think that's really important.
it's a big principle in what we do is valuing an hour of our time, not necessarily as the technician of doing the work, but as the person responsible for growing the business, because that's probably a different level of value. But whatever the value is, if you can pay someone a lower value to do the work that you're planning to do, then it's not just saves you time, but it makes you money because you can focus some
Yeah,
of the additional time on the stuff that makes you money, makes you more money. Um,
exactly. And it
it,
compounds.
it really does. It takes me back to I remember our founder Brad was speaking at an event quite a long time ago. We had sort of 500 odd people in a room, an event, and he was talking about that principle of never do something that you could pay somebody a lower hourly rate to do because it saves you time to either enjoy
Yeah,
it and um, and he was speaking and he just happened to say he said, look, I haven't cut my own grass for 10 years. And there was a guy in the middle of the room, and he stood up and he said, "But Brad, I like cutting my own grass." And Brad didn't mean to be detrimental, whatever the right word is, but it was just an immediate
yeah,
response, and he said, "Well, that's because you haven't got a boat." And it was a big learning for me because it is like it's easy to give ourselves the excuses that we enjoy it or it's important or we're saving money or whatever it is, rather than
yeah,
that ability to step back and go, okay, how what would I do? Whether that's spend time with my family, which is even more valuable than anything I can in business, or
yeah,
or maybe in business. So it can be a profitable strategy as well. And the other thing I was told, and it's so relevant to kids of your age, was I was asked the question would be, you may have heard this, but how do kids spell love? And it's Time.
yeah.
And
I
it, and
like
it,
it.
it sort of hit me home at the time because I just sort of think, yeah, okay, I get that. So yeah, wonderful time in your life
Yeah,
to
it's
have
good
kids at that
fun.
age.
Good
Yes.
fun. I had a whole night's sleep as well last night, so
Do
so
you know
that's all
what's
right.
funny? It is funny. You just take me back to a point in time where I'm going. I can't ever imagine a life without lack of sleep. We're in the middle of that thing of like,
Yeah,
and now it's like a distant, fond memory of thing. But at the time, you just go, I can't, I can't keep it. I empathise and envy you at the same time.
well, it's like you autopilot, don't you? You turn into a bit of a zombie and kind of
Yeah,
just get on with stuff.
just got to do it. Just got to do it.
Yeah,
But it does, eventually end. Hopefully,
yeah. Well, the
in terms.
rewards are there. It's all worth it, isn't it? When
Yeah,
as long as you're getting something back, I think that's the main thing.
absolutely. And on the learning front, is there any favourite books or podcasts that you can recommend to anyone else that you enjoy?
Yeah, I think a lot of the books that I read are kind of within my space, but I think the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. I'm not sure if you've heard of it or read
No.
it. He's a tech guy in America that's built a few multi-million pound companies,
Yeah.
and it's more like philosophy on life, and so that time things that kind of really came from there. That's
Yes.
where I really picked it up. And his view is value your own time at £5 an hour, and then
Perfect.
you'll spend it on the most important stuff. So
Perfect.
there's little things like that about perspective, and it goes from everything from like parenting through to business that you can. It's one of those books you can just pick up and put down, and it's just really useful for reflecting.
Brilliant. Just repeat the title because I'll
It's the
search.
Almanac of Naval Ravikant, and it's by I think it's by Eric Jorgensen is the chap's name.
Brilliant.
But yeah, I can confirm that.
Got it. Thank you. I've just found that. You're right, Eric Jorgensen. Thank you.
Yeah, no,
I'll be getting that
perfect.
this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Uh, and podcasts again. There's the one I listen to most is probably the Real Advisor podcast, which is just for financial advisors, aimed at
Brilliant.
financial advisors that are doing kind of that rounded planning.
Yep.
So they're my two go-tos, I'd say.
Brilliant. And again on the learning front, what would you say you've learned about yourself throughout your journey so far?
I think if you can just be consistent. I think there's a saying. I should have pulled this out earlier. There's a saying: if on your worst day, you can at least do an all right job. I'm absolutely butchering it, but when you're feeling rubbish and you kind of just want to. If you're just tired or whatever, if you just get stuck in, do the admin stuff you don't really
Yeah.
need to think about, or just keep trucking. Then then you can't go wrong from there. And again, it goes back to that viewing, zooming out, kind of seeing how far you've come. So that consistency, I think, is really important.
Brilliant. Just keep going, isn't it? Yeah, I think it's like,
Yeah.
even in the tough times, find something that you can at least do, and just keep swimming, which is well for my. I think that's Finding Nemo. That's one that my kids are watching at the time. Just keep swimming, just keep swimming. Uh, and we have a phrasing actually, coach, or a definition of a true business, and I'm keen to know what you feel about this from your perspective and the people that you work with. But for us, a true business is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without its owners, or I'll put in can work without its owners, because some people love that what they do so much, they never want to stop. But how do you feel about that as a definition for a business?
I think it's good for a business owner. I don't in our situation. I don't think it really applies. I think you could do it where you're hiring other advisors, but the plan
Yep,
for myself and Lana is both to, because we love the work we do, we love the
yep,
consultative part, we love that, so we want to keep doing that,
brilliant,
and just increase capacity going back. So for the back office, so we've got three members in the support team,
brilliant.
and again looking maybe at another person there. So I think it's a great aim, and it's a great kind of saying. But I think for us, it kind of wouldn't
Yeah,
work, just because technical advice is needed by an advisor. So if you pull the advisors away, then yeah, you'd struggle to do that. The
totally get that.
opposite way, I guess you could do it, is you could hire advisors and then stop giving advice completely. But again, that's our why. So
Yeah,
it would kind of detach things.
it's there isn't any rights or for me. There isn't any rights or wrongs, and if we love what we do, the question would be why would we want to stop? So I
Yeah,
totally get it. It's I think the challenge we find, and you may find this with people that you work with, is I find business owners that are stuck in the business and they don't enjoy it, and it's like,
yeah,
well, that's you've earned the right to get out of it if you really want to. Um,
yeah.
so no, brilliant. So looking forward then, David, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you think you might face, if any?
I think well, the future is looking bright at the moment. We've got great new inflows of clients from the dental side, and also from the Vision Independent Financial Advisors side as well. And we kind of collaborate with professionals really well. So that company I mentioned in Cornwall, Hive Business, we've started working with them, and that's been really mutually beneficial for both of us. And it's getting some partners where we can give that more rounded proposition. Yes, we can talk about the life planning and inheritance tax and wealth preservation, everything like that. But being able to pull someone in that can help you with the wills, with all the new changes which is going on to legislation, and making sure they're done properly and you're optimizing. I think that's really important. So making sure we've got a strong partnership base, which we do. And then I think not so much the challenge. I don't think that the whole AI thing is going to be a challenge. I think it's going to help us. It's going to
Yeah,
increase our capacity. It's going to work with us to mean that we're going to be more efficient.
yeah,
Yeah, I think for me they're the kind of the main things going
brilliant.
forward. But I think we just need to keep on this trajectory really, and
Yeah, brilliant.
yeah, just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I'm keen to know what you'd say to anyone that's thinking of going into business right now.
Any business,
Any business, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think, again, the time things that is still
Yes.
relevant, but when you've got less money, if you're starting up with scratch, then it's a bit harder to do, because you kind of just got to learn what you can do
Yep.
well and what you can't do well. um, I would say, and it would be interesting to hear your thoughts on this, pick your partners wisely. I think going in alone, it can be really tough. Maybe if you're really good at one particular thing, or that's just the way your personality is. But I think for me, I'd always want to do that with a partner, and
Yeah.
bounce ideas off, and someone that's kind of got skin in the game and is got everything's the same at stake. So I think for me that'd be really important. Find a good partner
Yes.
that has a skill set which is going to add to that business.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think, and you're right in highlighting there are some people that have to do it by themselves. That's their thing, and that's great.
Yeah,
But I think the one thing I would advise people, which is quite contrarian, unfortunately, is um, pick a partner that thinks differently to you, because that friction, that somewhere between the two thoughts is probably the right way forward. If you both think the
Yeah.
same, then you'll probably agree and go in the same direction. It's not always the easiest thing because, but I find a bit of healthy friction is actually friction itself is energy, so it's actually a good thing. Um, is quite valuable. But yeah, I think to be able to look at things differently, to be able to challenge each other, there's so much benefit in having partners in a business. But
Yeah.
you've got to get the right ones for lots of different reasons. But interestingly enough, I think being the same behaviourally and from a thought perspective is probably not always the best thing.
Yeah.
Does that make
And have
sense?
that clear why as well. I think, understand what you're doing and actually enjoy what you're doing.
Uh,
And that needs to be a driving factor, because if you're just setting a business up for the sake of it, then, you
couldn't
probably, it's harder to be resilient in that circumstance. Um,
couldn't agree more. In fact, it's interesting you say that. Yeah, I mean, one thing I always say is good relationships come from a match of goals. We both want to achieve the same thing, but great
yeah.
relationships come from a match of values. We both believe the
Yeah.
same things are important, and certainly having different ways of thinking is useful, but the same cultural values is absolutely key.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd
Um,
agree.
yeah,
Definitely.
100%. And final question: what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do that?
It's not going to affect anything that I'm in now, like the butterfly effect, is it?
No, 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 you're
It
okay.
changed the whole
You're
course
okay.
of changed
We
the
can,
whole course
it
of my
could do
life.
if you could go back in time, but we have got some magic stuff, and we're not that amazing.
um, I think so. 18-year-old me, I didn't have a clue what I wanted
Yeah.
to do, and I think that's common. Like, a lot of people don't.
Yes.
I think I'd stress the importance of learning, learning, having a fascination with learning and learning things about
Brilliant.
communication, basics of psychology, these things that you can translate across from parenting through to, speaking to someone at the local pub, things that are going to help you along the way. So just really try and continually do that, whatever fascinates you at that time,
Brilliant.
and try and focus on learning. Because if you have that mentality, then I think you're going to be okay.
Brilliant. Great answer, and I couldn't agree more. And I completely agree with you. I don't think it's not. I don't. I think there's so many people that don't really know what they're going to be 18, 19, 20. It's still. I appreciate it's a young. It's a young age. Someone described it recently as, and I was telling my daughter the other day that ultimately, if adulthood starts at 18, then in terms of adult, you're only one or even zero. But and it's almost like saying actually at 25 you're still only a 7-year-old adult,
Yeah.
and that's
Oh
okay.
yeah, I like it.
I,
Yeah.
I I think so. I think it's really sensible. However many years you take off, you could just take the first 10 years off. But we're
Yeah.
still early, and so why would you know? Why would you know? Because up until certainly sort of teenage years, just a kid. The world's our oyster.
Well, I
So
was going to say, whether that 18-year-old had listened to me, I don't, I don't know.
Well, that's the other thing. It's like, yeah, yeah, I know better. So yeah, no, it's an interesting question, but yeah, it probably wouldn't work anyway. It's like, yeah, whatever. And we think everyone's old at that point anyway, don't we? That's the challenge. Um, Dave, it's been fascinating to talk to you. Really, so thank you for sharing some of what you've learned, what you've achieved, and I'm sure that'll help some other people. And for anyone that was interested in contacting you or your company, what would be the easiest way to do that?
Yeah, you can do it via LinkedIn. So again, it's David Abel from Vision Independent Financial Advisors, or Vision Dental Wealth, or you can go for our website. Again, if you just type in Vision Independent Financial Advisors to Google, then you can go on there. We've
Brilliant,
started doing some content for dentists and business owners about basic stuff about inflation investment strategy,
brilliant,
which is on our YouTube, which is on Vision Dental Wealth at
great,
YouTube. So yeah, that's how you can reach out to us.
brilliant. Well, look, it'd be great to swing by in another 6, 12 months and just see the next stage of what you're doing, and then you can share some more learnings with us. But for now, thank you so much for your time.
Great. Well, thanks for having me on, Chris. Really appreciate it.
Really welcome. Thank you.